I yield myself as much time as I may consume, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We thought the Democrats were obsessed with President Trump, but Justice Thomas is a close second. This bill is simply the latest installment of the Democrats' campaign to delegitimize and attempt to intimidate the United States Supreme Court. Started when President Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh. That was just too much for the left to bear, and they launched a smear campaign in an attempt to derail his nomination. Then we saw Senator Schumer stand on the steps. Remember, a leader in the legislative branch stand on the steps of the Supreme Court, a separate and equal branch of government, and threaten Supreme Court justices. He said, quote, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you've released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these decisions." Just last month, a crazed individual attempted to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh in his home. An assassination attempt on a sitting justice of the United States Supreme Court. For months, Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have pursued this narrative that the Supreme Court is somehow illegitimate. Members of the committee, including the chairman, have introduced a bill to pack the court, to add 4 associate justices to our highest court. The committee has held hearings that can only be interpreted as an attempt to lay the groundwork for an effort to impeach Justice Thomas. And today, the Democrats bring forward a bill that is completely unnecessary. Why are the Democrats going down this path? Because, frankly, they have nothing else. We're debating this bill today because it is July of an election year, and inflation is at a level not seen in 40 years. Highest inflation rate in 41 years. The price of gas, the price of food, the price of daily necessities have skyrocketed. We are debating this bill today because illegal immigration is at unprecedented levels. Last month, Customs and Border Patrol reported that we have already surpassed the prior year's total for encounters at our southern border. And we still got 3 months left in the fiscal year. We're debating this bill today because they can't talk about the fact that our country is gripped by an epidemic of violent crime in every major urban area in this country. Every day, Americans are being assaulted, robbed, and murdered in our cities. We are here because the Democrats have no answers and desperately hope that a manufactured crisis will help them in November. The Democrats want Americans to believe that the Supreme Court at any moment could step in and overturn its opinions in Obergefell and Loving. That's simply not true. The very decision that Democrats say creates this threat explicitly denies it, explicitly disclaims it. Here's what the court said in the Dobbs decision. The Dobbs decision should not be misunderstood, mischaracterized to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. End of quote. The court condemned the idea that the Dobbs decision would lead to an overturning of other cases, stating, quote, "Perhaps this is designed to stoke unfounded fear in our decision that our decision will imperil other rights," close quote. It is this unfounded fear that brings us here today. We are here for a charade. We are here for political messaging. Democrats can't run on their disastrous record. They can't run on any accomplishments less than 4 months before an election. And all Democrats can do is stoke unfounded fears. And so that is why we are here with this bill. I hope we can defeat it. I hope it doesn't pass. I think, as I said, is unnecessary and wrong. And Mr. Speaker, we reserve the balance of our time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentlelady from Texas just used the word violence. Violence. 50 crisis pregnancy centers and churches have been attacked in the last 11 weeks. 50 in 11 weeks. I mean, think about that. As I said in my opening statement, the leader of the Senate stood on the steps of the Supreme Court and said to 2 specific justices, "You have unleashed the whirlwind. You will pay the price." The Speaker of this body waited 4 weeks to give protection to Supreme Court justices' families after the left had posted online where her kids go to school, where their family attends church on Sunday morning. And in that interim, during that time, after that bill had come out of the Senate unanimously, We had the assassination attempt on one of the justices, one of the very justices that the Senate Democrat leader had referenced in his comments on the steps of the Supreme Court. And of course, the Attorney General of the United States refuses to prosecute anyone who has protested at those justices' homes in direct violation of a statute while the case was still pending in front of the court. Directly on point. So, violence, concerns with violence, yeah, we all have concerns. She's right about one thing. We all have concerns about violence. But I want to just understand, I want everyone to understand what is going on as we speak. 50 pregnancy centers and churches in 11 weeks. I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that kind of attack on the pro-life community, even so much that a witness who came in front of our committee for the second time, she was here a few months ago, came back the second time she had to bring security with her because of threats against her life.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. Americans want safer streets, affordable gas, and freedom. Instead, Democrats give us record crime levels, record inflation, and another bill attacking President Trump, sponsored by the guy who spent years misleading the Congress and, more importantly, the country on Trump-Russia investigation, on the Mueller investigation, on impeachments. Remember when the sponsor of the bill said that his office didn't meet with the whistleblower? Found out that wasn't true. Remember when the sponsor of the bill told us that we would hear from the whistleblower during impeachment? We'd actually have real process instead of having hearings and depositions in the basement, in the bunker of the Capitol. Remember when the sponsor told us this? That there was more than circumstantial evidence that President Trump colluded with Russia? That turned out to be false. Bob Mueller said it was false. Everyone knew it was false. In fact, it was such baloney, even the Washington Post has had to retract and change things from stories because they said, oh, yeah, there was a lot of false information in that dossier that they used to go spy on President Trump's campaign. And I think this is important to understand. Sponsored this legislation wasn't just any member of Congress, Mr. Speaker. He wasn't just any chairman of a committee in Congress. He was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, the committee that gets additional information from anyone else in the country making those claims that were not accurate. So maybe instead of having another bill that attacks President Trump because Democrats are afraid he's going to run and he's going to win in 2024, so they want to do everything they can to attack him, maybe instead of another bill attacking President Trump, we should actually focus on things that the American people care about. You know, you can attack President Trump all you want. I know one thing. A year ago, the border was secure. Sure was. A year ago, cities were safe. Safer than they are today. A year ago, we didn't have a 31-year high inflation. We actually had wages going up, real wages. A year ago, we didn't have a Department of Justice attacking moms and dads, putting a label, a designation, a threat tag on parents who simply go to school board meetings and speak out against a racist, hate America curriculum. No, we didn't have that a year ago. But you guys can keep attacking the president all you want, not addressing the issues that the American people care about. We're going to speak about the issues they care about. We're going to try to do everything we can to slow down your crazy agenda that is driving up the price of everything. We're going to speak out against and do everything we can to make sure the Department of Justice quits attacking parents. God bless the whistleblower who came forward and gave us the information, sent from the Counterterrorism Division of the FBI. We could be dealing with that issue today. We could be holding the Attorney General accountable, the Justice Department accountable for what they're doing. No. We're going to attack President Trump again. Democrats, that's the only thing they can do because they can't talk about anything else. I hope we defeat this bill. Yield back my time.
You go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, members of the Rules Committee. Earlier, Representative Cheney said we can have an investigation or we can let it go uninvestigated. I mean, what a ridiculous statement. The FBI has been investigating this issue for the past, since it happened. exactly where it's supposed to happen. 600 people have been charged. Investigations are supposed to happen in the executive branch. Congress has an oversight function, but Democrats don't want to do that. They don't want to ask the appropriate questions, like why was the security posture so weak that day? Why wasn't the National Guard here? They don't want to ask those questions. Instead, the actions of the January 6th committee, I believe, are a complete assault on Americans' liberty. There have been 4 batches of subpoenas issued. 4 batches. The one we're talking about today, Mr. Bannon, Mr. Meadows, Mr. Patel, Mr. Scavino. Second one to Mr. Clark, employee at DOJ, former employee at DOJ. The 3rd batch to organizers of some other rally. I didn't know about that happened that day. And then there's been subpoenas issued to 11 individuals, 11 American citizens, who asked the government for permission on an application to hold the Trump rally. Now think about this. They put their names on an application. The government asked them to do that. They give that application to the government granted it, and now the January 6th committee petitions them to ask them questions about exercising their First Amendment right to assemble. Here's what they ask them about. Subpoena to those individuals, those 11 individuals, includes a demand for agenda and selection of speakers for the rally. They ask them for coordination of the speakers' respective speeches, discussions of content, and they ask them, think about this, communications with or concerning any member of Congress. So, if some of these individuals happen to talk to a member of Congress exercising their First Amendment liberty to petition their government to redress their grievances, wow, the January 6th committee wants to depose them on those kind of things. Some of these individuals are 20-some-year-old staffers. I mean, this is largely a clerical thing. They filled out this application, setting out chairs, escorting people to their seats, plugging in microphones. No, they're gonna go after them. Even though the investigation the FBI is doing says, fine, scan evidence of any type of coordination. Here's what it says: violence was not centrally coordinated. This is the Reuters story. Oh, and here's the source. Here's the source on that story. Senior lawmakers have been briefed in detail on the results of the FBI's investigation so far, find them credible, a Democrat congressional source said. So there is an investigation going on where it's supposed to happen in the executive branch. Oh, I forgot. One other thing the January 6th committee's done that I believe is a direct attack on liberty. They've sent letters to the carriers, the tech companies, asking that they, for hundreds and hundreds of Americans, according to news reports, asking that they preserve all communications of that individual for the past 6 months. And they told these companies, oh, by the way, don't let the person we're telling you to preserve information for, don't let them know, like the law requires, don't let them know that we've asked you to do this. And if you feel compelled to follow the law and tell them that this January 6th, that government is asking for this information to be preserved, if you feel compelled to, tell us first. The old gag order concept, this is scary where they want to go and what they're doing to Americans' constitutional rights. And finally, I would ask just this sort of fundamental question. How can you expect witnesses to participate when you wouldn't let Republicans participate in the committee? How can you do that? We know what this is about. This is plain and simple. This is about, they got nothing else to talk about. They got nothing else to talk. This is the worst administration in history. We went from a secure border to complete chaos. Complete chaos. Every single month has been worse than the one before. March was the highest month on record for illegal crossings, illegal migrant encounters until April. April was the highest month until May. May was the highest month until June. June was the highest month until July. 212,000 that month alone. They got nothing else to talk about. We went from energy independence to the President of the United States begging OPEC to increase production. They can't talk about that. No, they're going to use this committee to attack American citizens' liberties, fundamental First Amendment rights. We went from relatively safe streets to violent crime up in every major urban area in this country. Can't talk about that, can't address those problems that real Americans care about. Nope, we're going to assault Americans' First Amendment rights. Can't talk about inflation, real wages gone down, can't talk about that, supply chain problems, empty shelves in the stores, can't talk about that. Nope, going to go after this. I hope every single Republican votes against this. I hope some Democrats decide that this is not how it's supposed to work. We just had a decision last year. The Mazur, these guys are obsessed with going after President Trump. We just had a decision in the Mazur case last year that says this is not how it's supposed to work.
slap back Congress because they wanted to get information that they weren't entitled to. They don't do the investigations, the executive branch does. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to questions.